Welcome. In this video, I'm going to be taking a look at this ELEGOO Neptune 4 Pro 3D printer. So if you find this video helpful and you want to purchase one of these, I'll put a link to it in the description. And if you use that link, it helps me out a little bit and doesn't cost you anything extra. So a little bit of background. I have one other 3D printer. It's an FLSun Q5. I've had it a little over 3 years. It's a Delta printer. And I was looking at adding a second printer, and I wanted to get a Cartesian printer. I wanted one that was direct drive. I also wanted one that ran Clipper. So I did some research and decided to get the Neptune 4 Pro. So in this video, I'll be unboxing this and setting it up. And as I make more videos, I'll add them to a playlist and I'll put that in the description also. So let's get started. I'm going to set the box off to the side so I can unload it in the middle here. So here we have the gantry. In the middle here, we have a bunch of parts. Okay, so I got all the parts out of the box here. Let's get the instructions out. Here's a little notice here. It looks like a little quick start guide. And here's the full-on manual. So you want to read through this. I may not cover everything. So before I assemble it, let's take a look at some of these parts up close. This is the cooling fan. Now, I think it has a built-in fan, and this is an extra fan. It has an on-off switch on it. And here's the DC 24-volt input. And I guess this thing can be pretty loud. Here's the control screen. This has a telephone-style plug in it. I think that's RJ11. Here's the effector. It has a silicon boot on it. Extruder. This is the base for the controller. It's magnetic. Spool holder. Build platform glue stick. Lots of stuff in this bag here. It's an Ethernet cable. Some parts. Filament. USB drive, nozzles. This looks like maybe another USB drive. It says giveaway on it. This is the broken filament detector switch. Zip ties, little tool pouch. This is a nozzle cleaning needle. It's in a package. I like that. I've been stabbed by these before on accident. Here's some 3D printer grease. Does not say what kind of grease it is. Here we have the other part of the spool holder, and this is the base. See what's going to move here. Now this is the heavy part. Let's take a look at the bottom before we build it. So on the bottom we have, looks like probably power supply, control board. We have these big rubber feet. On the side we have a LAN port. On the back, this is an important thing right here. It's a switch. I'm in the US. I'll need to switch that to 115 volts. On the front we have USB Type-C, USB-A, and the port for our controller. On the other side we have a power switch and a power socket. This is a standard power socket. So it does come with a power cord, but if you wanted to use a really short one, like if you're setting up a print farm, you can get lots of different options for that. Here you can see one of the stepper motors. There's also a limit switch right there. And these have tensioning knobs here for the belts. So there's some more packing material in. I'll get that out in a minute. So let's get started on the build. So looking at the yellow sheet, it looks similar to the instructions on page 4 of the manual. I don't notice a lot different. It does say this is part 10 here, and then it has auto leveling instructions on the back. It does say the USB drive has an installation instructional video. So I'm going to rearrange things off camera, and then we'll get this put together. Okay, so I put the accessories off to the side. I have the hardware out front here. Now the first step in the instructions is installing the print head on the gantry, and then the next step would be to install the gantry on the base. I'm just going to install the gantry on the base first. That way this is up in the air, and we'll make it easier to put that print head on there. Now if I'm wrong about that, then I'll let you know in this video. So to install this, we need the HMS 45 4-piece screw set. These are nicely labeled. And then we will find the appropriate hex key, which is this one. So these have a ball driver end on it, so you can tilt these at a slight angle when you install them. So I need to get the base over here. It says ELEGOO on the front here, and I want that to be towards the front of the printer with the ports on it. So this is going to mount right here. Now on this left side there are some cords I want to make sure are out of the way so I'm not pinching them. So I think the easiest way to do this will be to tip it on its side a little bit. Like so. So I'll put the screws in here. Now I haven't tightened that all the way down on this side. I'm going to tip it to the other side to get these screws in. Now before I tighten these down, I want to move the cross member down. I'm doing this very slowly because it could be backfeeding. Well, actually it's unplugged, so. Okay, so now it's down all the way. I'll tighten those down. I want to make sure that this isn't in just a tiny bit where this tries to go down and it will bind up. Okay, the gantry is installed. Now I did notice that this is tipping a little bit, and I think my bench is flat, but it's certainly possible that it's not. It could be that one of these feet is longer than the other, but I'll mess with that later. So next I'll get the print head on. So I'll move this back up, and we're going to use this pouch. Here's the hardware. So I'll slide this towards the center here. I'll unwrap the print head. So this was shrink wrap because this part comes off of here. Here you can see the inside. So we're going to use the longer of these screws, and we have the cable holder here, and I'm looking at this from the front. This is going to go behind. The screw is going to go in here, and that will come out this hole. There'll be 2 screws there, and I'll screw those into the print head. Now there are a bunch of wires sticking out here. I'm going to tuck those in. And these top screws are going to go into here and here. Then there'll be bottom screws that will go in here. So those aren't tight yet. I'm going to put the other screws in. There'll be one on either side here to hold the plastic cover on. Now let's turn this around. Here we are on the back side. These are the 2 screws I put in first, and these are the last 2 screws we're going to be putting in. Once I get them all started, I'll tighten them all down. Okay, I'm back at the front. I'll finish tightening these screws. So next we'll install the controller mount. So this has 3 screws. It's PM420. So I'll put this top rear one in first. Okay, that's secure. And once it's to plug the controller in, I'll pull these pieces of foam out now. Oops. There we go. Plug that in here. Before I'll switch that voltage. I should have done that first. So I'll take a hex key in here and I'll just push that till it says 115. The next step is to install the filament spool holder. So there's some captive nuts in here. We'll pull those towards the center. I'm using PM418. So this faces towards the back. I'll start threading one in, move it over, and then I'll slide it this way and line up the nut. Okay, so now it's loose. So I'll center this over the logo. Now I'll thread in the spool holder itself. Okay, next we have the filament break detection sensor. So that's here, HM4M33. I'll put the screw in here and I'll mount it to the riser. So this does not mount tight. You can see it rotates here and it rotates here. So I'll go ahead and plug this sensor in. Now these are keyed so they only go in one way. There we go. Next they want us to install the cable clamp. So I'll pull the head down a little bit. The clamp is going on this corner. They're showing it kind of like this. There are 3 holes here. These 2 are threaded, this one's not. I'm going to check the USB drive and see if there's clear instructions on that. So there's a video on here. They used a different style clamp here, so I'll just figure it out. Before I put that clamp on, I'll install this in the print head. You can see it's keyed here. There's a little notch it fits into. So those can move out of the way. It needs to go in this bracket. So you kind of need to do all this at the same time. So I slid that in. I'll slide this up like so. You want to make sure you line up the pins. You don't want to bend them. Okay. As I push that down, this will lock in. So I'll move this all the way over. So that's the furthest over it will go. I'll pull this cable straight. There's a little kink in it. I'm going to bend that out. And that's going to come around this corner. So you want enough slack so this can move and this won't get bound up. We do have a twist in here though, unfortunately. Let me pull the twist out. So the clip is going to mount on this corner. So we need to fold this in half, like so. We'll feed it in here. Like that. Put this in. Okay, and that does clear that, but it's pretty close. So you do need enough slack on this side too, so it can go all the way to the top. So I guess I'll move this up. Okay, I have plenty of slack there. So here you can see the clearance. Next we'll install the big cooler, and we have the last pouch of screws. It's the PM445. Pretty straightforward here. We have 3 holes and 3 places to mount. So I'm tightening everything snug. I don't want to break anything, but I will come back occasionally and make sure all of these screws, and even the ones I didn't put in, have not loosened up over time. So now it wants us to plug everything in. So I'll pull the cable out of the way. So there are two little leads coming off of this cable. Now they only fit one way. One will go to the stepper, the other will go to the limit switch. Now those wires do say X on them also. Let's head back up here and we have the cooling fan supply. If we come down here, we have a whole mix of things to plug in. So this is the Z, so that will plug in down here. And we have the X and Y here. Oh, and these are the lights. There we go. We also have the Z on the other side to plug in. I think everything is plugged in now. Okay, so we're all set up. I am still having that wobble. It came with some anti-wobble shims in the shape of a wrench, so I'll put one of those under this foot. It's much more sturdy now. So I'll take the controller. It looks like there's some protective film here. I'll pull that off. And next we need to go through setup. Before I do that, I'm going to clean up this mess a little bit. Okay, so let's get ready to turn this on. So I'm going to plug it in the back. So I'm going to plug it in on the side here in the rear. I'll turn the power switch on. And you want to check one more time that everything is plugged in. Looks good. It's booting up here. Okay, we have the control panel up. So now we want to go through the auto leveling procedure. So it says turn on the printer, select level. It says it will trigger the return to zero action. I'll hit confirm. Okay, so I ran into an issue there. This belt was not tight. You can see it's really loose. So I needed to tighten that up. Now you don't want it too tight. You can also tighten this here. That seems better. And of course it uses the screws for the height, so those don't need to be tightened. So I'm going to cancel out of this. I think I'm going to try and get a 2-camera setup going here. Okay, so I set up a second camera so I can show the control panel and the printer at the same time. So let's start this over. I'll hit level, I'll hit confirm. Okay, so I want to take a piece of paper and slide it in there, and I'll adjust the height until it just barely grabs the paper. So in the control panel here, we can adjust how much it's actually moving. So we have 1/100th of a millimeter, 1/10th of a millimeter, and 1 millimeter. It says next we'll select the auxiliary. So for this we'll adjust the 4 corners, so I'll hit confirm. So let's start here, so I'll hit 1. So it's hard to get a good view under here, but I'm going to rotate this knob. And I'm rotating it to the right and it's bringing it down, so I want to rotate the other way. Oh, and it actually has words up here to tell you which way to turn it to. I'm just down at a low angle so I didn't see it. So I'm going to bring this up, paper in there, and I'll tighten it till it just grabs. Okay, so I'm going to repeat that on the other corners. Okay, so that's completed. I'll hit back. It's asking me if I want to do automatic leveling, and I do. I'll hit confirm. And now it will start automatic leveling. So before it does the leveling, it's going to heat up the bed and the nozzle, because that can warp things just a little bit, and then it will probe the surface 36 times. Okay, that's completed. It says pay attention to the distance between the nozzle and the bed. About the thickness of a sheet of paper can be adjusted by Z offset. So I'll hit confirm. And I am going to try and move that up just a hair. I think that's just about right. So now I want to make sure I hit save. I'll hit confirm. And we're saving the configuration. So now I'm going to do a test print. This USB drive came with some models. The thing that said giveaway is a micro USB to USB adapter. It comes with a really small card. It's a 512 megabyte card, but it's plenty big for holding some models. So I loaded the models on here. This was blank, and I'll plug this into the printer. Now I'll load some filament. Here I have this push plastic PLA red. I'm going to trim the end up. We'll install the spool. So I want the filament going forward. I want to straighten this out a little bit. This can be a little bit brittle, and I'll press it through the filament detector. The light lit up. Now I'll load this into the head. So I'll pull this lever back and press it down as far as it goes. Let's come over to the control panel. It automatically opened up our drive. I'll open up the model folder, and we'll do a 3D benchy. Let's do the regular one. I'll load that up. Okay, so here it shows the model, and I'll hit confirm. We'll let this thing print. So the controller here says print done. It says it took 25 minutes. I'll hit return, and we're back at the main screen. So here we're at the build plate. Now it did a purge over here to the side. Peel that off. Let's see if this just came right off. Now if this didn't come off, we could take this magnetic PEI plate off and we could flex it a little bit. Let's take a look at the quality of that. It looks very nice along the sides. There's a little bit in the front here. It's not perfect. Otherwise, I'd say that looks pretty good. So now I do want to remove my filament, so I can pull this back, and that's stuck in there. So I'll come over here to the control panel, I'll hit prepare, I'll go to temp, I'll choose the hot end, and I'll say 200, okay. And we can watch this heat up here. Okay, so we're up to temp. So what I'm going to do is I'll pull on this, and I'm actually going to push a little bit down, extrude a little bit of filament, and then I'll pull it out. I find that pulls out a little bit cleaner and is less likely to clog. So now we have a little bit of filament hanging down below. I'll just take a piece of paper towel to wipe that off. Right there. So that was the assembly and first print of this ELEGOO Neptune 4 Pro 3D printer. So assembling this was pretty straightforward. Probably the biggest challenge is that I'm trying to film this while I'm putting it together. It would have been a little bit smoother had I done it without filming, because I was trying not to block the camera, even though I did probably many times. So the next step will be setting up the Cura software and connecting up the printer to the network so we can slice and print other models. Now I think I may or may not have mentioned before, it said to lubricate these. These do have lubrication on them. What I'll probably do is run it a little while, and occasionally I'll wipe those down with a paper towel and I'll re-lubricate them. And when you wipe them down, you'll be wiping away the grease and also any contaminants on them. But I'll be having other videos on here. Again, I'll put those in my playlist. So that's all I'm going to cover in this video. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. If you like this video, please click like. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, I'd appreciate if you could do that. And thanks for watching. Until next time, goodbye.